The animals, trap, trap, trap till the cages fall. The cages fall, the day is new, and everyone is waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time. Think of all the roads.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because I likes what I knows and I knows what I likes. I am the blogger in question and the moderator of this podcast. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. Have you discovered that we have been producing more podcast episodes beyond our initial pilot 3? In fact, CPU, exclamation point, happily keeps growing, and we have several new episodes coming down the pike. As always, though, because the panelists and I have to get up from our couches sometime and have lives behind the podcast, the episodes will still likely come at irregular intervals, so subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes to stay on top of brand new episodes. We have several episodes already published discussing Downton Abbey, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Doctor Who, and Once Upon a Time, and more episodes are in the works covering other shows such as Game of Thrones, Forever, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The X-Files, and hopefully many, many more. If you don't hear your show in this podcast format, though, check out the blog. I still write reviews, and I'm always seeking new podcast panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, and an email address at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can always subscribe to the blog and sign the guest book or comment on posts you see. We love feedback since we obviously love giving it ourselves. Today we're around the water cooler and continuing our discussion of Season 3 of Orange is the New Black. As you might recall, the third season of OITNB was released in its entirety to the Netflix streaming library on June 12, 2015 with a total of 13 episodes, which means, for the record, that the show is legally available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. Our illustrious panel of OITNB enthusiasts, Krista, Kristen, and Nick, and now including Amanda and Eddie, as well as Jack, the junior podcaster, are back again to continue the discussion of the third season and speculation on what the next season might look like, as Netflix has, of course, renewed this wildly successful program for a fourth season, likely to be released in June 2016. For a plot summary, as well as the first half of our thoughts, predictions, and speculations about Orange's third season, and or to read or hear thoughts about previous seasons of OITNB, check out our other Orange entries on the blog. If you didn't already know, you can click the floating box at the top right of the header, the picture with the TV watcher, and search for any blog entry or prior podcast episode. One of the perks of modern technology. In the first part of our discussion, our group covered many topics arising from the third season, including the panel's well-documented and growing hatred of Piper, played by Taylor Schilling, as the main character. Amanda referred to her, in the extreme, as death to interestingness. Piper's panty-sniffing online business and the ensuing aftermath. The return of Alex Voss, played by Laura Prepon, and her potential fate following the third season. Kristen and Eddie tossed out some intriguing predictions and rationale related to her fate. The lack of a galvanizing villain character vis-a-vis, but not to be confused with V, the emergence of the prison corporation that Caputo hires to save the financially insolvent prison and the ensuing slippery slope it produced. The arrival of new inmate Stella, played by Ruby Rose, and her point of the love triangle, including Alex and Piper. Nikki, played by Natasha Lyon, getting shipped to Max. Daya, played by Dasha Polanco, and her potential deal with Pornstash's mom, played by Mary Steenburgen, as well as her ongoing relationship dynamic with her mom, Aleda, about which Krista had some strong reactions. Red, played by Kate Mulgrew, and her burgeoning dynamic with Healy, played by Michael Harney. This was probably Nick's favorite part of the discussion. Pensatucky, played by Taryn Manning, and her interactions with the guard, as well as her odd couple friendship with Big Boo, played by Leah Delaria, and the new religious leader role taken on by Norma, played by Annie Golden. Today, the panelists, Kristen, who is addicted like Nikki, Amanda, who is spreading the word of kindness and acceptance like Norma, Nick, who is watching the show to feel like he matters like Red, and Krista and Eddie, who are watching the show because their friends watch it like Tasty, as well as your moderator Kylie, who, for the record at this juncture, would also probably be addicted like Nikki, hope to discuss other plot points of the season, including the stories tied to Morello, Caputo and Figueroa, who reared her head again, Gloria, Sophia, Black Cindy, Soso, Poussey, Tasty, and Suzanne, aka Crazy Eyes, as well as discuss the breathtaking season finale. As always, it should be noted that every single one of our panelists have viewed the entire show through the end of the third season and will likely discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who are not caught up on OITNB, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, Eddie, Nick, Kristen, Krista, and Amanda. How are y'all doing today?
Hey!
So we're very excited because we would like to continue our discussion today. We had a very lively first discussion, and everyone wanted to just keep going, so let's do it. Let's talk about some things.
Black Cindy.
Black Cindy.
Black Cindy.
Kristen wants to talk about Black Cindy. Kristen, what did you think about that?
I loved her storyline this season. It seems in the past she's always been kind of a secondary player where she's been more of an enhancement but not a big focus. And I loved that they brought her more front and center this time around. I really liked her transition from, I'll convert to Judaism just so I can get the better meals, to, hey, I really like what this has got to do, and,
Yeah, I did. I thought that was interesting too. Just the happy accent, I guess, for her, that you saw it in the past with her interaction with other characters. Her desire to want to be a part of something bigger, to have something more meaningful, and maybe some power. I guess not a power in her life, but I don't know a better way to say this. But something to turn to for answers, and it was always another person, and that got her into so much trouble. And to have her maybe finding something that's giving her a little bit of focus is so interesting. And for it to be Judaism, which is such, somewhat an unusual choice, makes it that much more interesting and entertaining for us as an audience. And we get to learn along with her in a lot of ways, because if you don't know a lot of Jewish people, then, it's a new experience for you too. The stereotypes like she did, but then we get to maybe get into a deeper knowledge, which is interesting.
Didn't her flashback cover the fact that her mother, I don't know if it was her actual father or somebody that her mother had become involved with, was a preacher of some sort or a pastor, and actually made some comments about the way she was living her life, and she was very involved, I think, in protests for civil rights and things of that nature, and this preacher or this pastor kind of admonished her for not being a good Christian. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's also one of the things that she says after she's baptized, whatever it's called, I guess baptism in Judaism, in the lake. Or maybe she says it right before that, but how this is really her people. This is really her people, which I thought was very, very interesting. And raises a lot of cultural parallelisms too, which maybe is more heady discussion than we want to get into today, but
Let's talk about Thurix!
Woo!
It does segue nicely into the lake scene.
It
does. Krista wants to talk about the lake.
She does want to talk about
Well, that is one of the most memorable parts of the last season. Because, it was 15, 20 minutes long. It was almost
like half the episode.
It was like half. They flashed to other scenes during, but it was such a joyful moment. Them all running, and like no one's gonna get away or anything, but just to be outside in a very real way. They weren't confined for a few minutes, and it was really lovely.
It was lovely.
It's almost like they actually got to breathe the air. Like, I know, like, they get to go outside, but they're still confined.
Yeah,
like,
they're
they
confined
got,
in the prison
like, they
area.
got fresh air. They got to feel the sand. They got to feel what, like, civilization is again. And I thought that was really huge that they, like, actually showed that and how they interacted with each other.
Civilization is funny since they were in a lake with no other people around them, but
To them, I mean, I'm just saying.
true.
Yeah, life outside the walls a little bit. But
Right.
It was interesting, too, that, the guard strike happened when it did, but they still allowed the workers to come in and replace that section of the fence. And
they failed big time.
They did. Well, I thought it was funny that, the guys installing the fence, they saw all these women just charging them, and their first instinct was to get in their truck and lock the door. I thought that was kind of a little humorous. But, yeah, the fact that they, like, immediately, one person went, and then a few more followed, and as the word spread, it was just this huge rush of people down to the lake. And yet no one took this opportunity that we know of so far to escape. They just went to the lake. They didn't try to make a break for it.
I don't think they have the mindset
Maybe not.
of wanting to escape. I think them being able to go to the lake was more than actually, like, escaping.
Well, and there's also the safety in numbers. If we all go to the lake, then what can they really do to all of us? If you are the one person that tries to escape and then gets caught, it becomes much worse for you than to enjoy this afternoon in this beautiful setting and just be for a minute rather than having to be on guard. Nobody's hurting each other. Nobody's scheming. You can see them let down their guard visually. Several of the characters just sort of relax and let life exist instead of everything inside the prison is a power struggle. And they step away from that. And I thought it was such a beautiful moment to see them do that.
Well, and especially, too, Black Cindy's baptism was a really beautiful moment, I thought. Just the look on her face when she resurfaced was everything for her storyline. You could read everything across her face.
Well, because it was a thing she thought she wasn't going to have for so long.
Yeah. That she'd have to wait to get that confirmation of her new religion. And,
right. And then that she gets to have that and move forward with that. What a reviving thing.
And it was nice to see Red and Norma kind of relax and be on equal footing a little bit on the dock at the end. And that was kind of a cute moment to wrap up both of their storylines this season, too, with their semi-power struggle that they had going on.
Yeah, and So-So finally got her own little group.
Yeah, and So-So kind of got a girlfriend, too. I took it as like a new relationship kind of starting.
Maybe.
With Pusey.
I agree with you. That's
I thought
took
that
it as
also.
I took it as a little bit of a new little something.
There's probably potential there, but that wasn't my instant reaction. I thought they were two very lonely characters that were finally able to find a connection in the end.
And I thought it was more of a romantic connection, in addition to now So-So will be kind of part of their group.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a ton of lovely moments.
Oh, it was
in
a
that
beautiful.
lake
That was
scene.
another very beautiful moment. I thought that was very sweet, heartfelt,
Indeed.
honest.
while all that was going on, was it a little too on the nose that Piper
Yes.
Yeah.
is the only one not in the lake, and she's tattooing an infinity symbol on herself?
In the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, is that a hint that she's not going anywhere, even when her sentence is up? Like, she's at home in prison?
Wow.
You asked dismayed.
Yeah. I don't know, it just seems like now she really, after having that conversation with Stella about the tattoos and the pain, it just seems like she's really embraced that lifestyle, that part of the prison lifestyle, and she needs that pain and that, that tattoo to...
She had the same look on her face while she tattooed herself that everyone else did while they were in
At the lake.
Like, she...
That real pleasure, joy, happiness kind of...
Yeah.
And it was a little on the nose also that while they are off enjoying themselves, they're bringing in more beds so that the prison can, double the population.
Quadruple, because it's two bunk
this
beds.
is how I took the lake scene. It was the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly.
Definitely.
And that might be, too dramatic to say, but I think it's so crazy that we see them all finally kind of going on the same level, because all the other seasons, they've all, like, one's been power tripping, one's not, but they're all, like, equal. Going back to equal rates again. So they're all equal, and then now they're bringing in all these beds.
Well, and then you see all the new prisoners being...
Right, but I think it's funny that our main group, they all pretty much kind of get along with each other. I mean, there's little struggles. Now they're going to bring in all these new people, and crap's going to hit the fan.
Oh, certainly. I mean, they're comfortable. They know where they fit. You know, how the cogs turn in the prison. And sure, there might be a little rearranging here and there, but everybody has a place.
I like to compare it to a small town. They're literally like a small town. They know where they need to go to get their stuff.
Well, now you're going to bring in all these other people who they're going to have to navigate. Does this, our original core group, work together, or do they start branching out? How does that work? Do they all become then more unified, because it's sort of like, like I can make fun of my mom, but you can't, kind of thing. So if you pick on somebody as an outsider, even if I was just, fighting with them, I'm not going to let you pick on them because they're one of my people.
Yeah, it's kind of the old guard versus the new guard now, and how are they going to handle this new influx of people?
Do you think the writers know where they're going with it? Because part of my takeaway from the end was they needed something ominous to balance out the lake scene, but I also feel like a huge mistake like this means that the people running the prison won't be able to run the prison anymore.
I think they do know where they're going with it, just based on the fact that little clues were dropped throughout the season. I mean, I think it was you in the last discussion who picked up on the fact that the prison guards that were still employed said something to the effect of they shouldn't have done that today.
Yeah, they can't afford us. They can't afford to lose us today of all days, and that's why they went on strike that day.
Because they knew
everybody was arriving, the beds were coming in.
Yeah.
Right, but wasn't this prison going to close down unless corporation comes in and run it?
Correct.
Well, unless it became financially solvent, which the solution then was the corporation.
Okay.
Yeah. But having it now run by a corporation is different than having the new corporation now bring in a whole bunch more people.
Right.
But do we think the corporation is going to still be running it after that mistake?
Well, they're the ones who brought everybody in.
I think that's going to be a large part of the conflict we witnessed in season 4. I do think they know where they're going. I think they've laid a story trajectory for us, which is, and it's funny that Eddie compares it to a small town. You can almost parallel it to big development coming into the small town and turning it into a city. And that here again we have, it's sort of a bit of a subtext toward the corporate America piece of it. But we have this corporation bringing in this influx of literally hundreds of new prisoners. That's going to create all kinds of dramatic dynamics with the current prisoners that you're already talking about. It's not to say that it's going to be a successful move, but I think we're going to watch the decline. I don't think it's
going to happen when we're not there.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to jump ahead in time and we're not going to witness this decline. I think that's going to be part of what we see next season.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the Martha character.
That's what I was just thinking. I was thinking, not only are we getting a bunch of new prisoners, but we're getting
A famous prisoner.
one that's going to be drawing the public eye to the institution. So as Big Corporation is trying to then fix any issues, they're also going to be watched. She has the ability to get a message out that these other women don't have.
Well, do you remember the media frenzy when Martha Stewart went to the prison? There was paparazzi and helicopters stalking her out in the prison yard and getting all these pictures for tabloids and magazines. So I wonder if they're also going to bring in that element where it's, you mentioned there's going to be a big spotlight on this prison. There's a whole nother paparazzi media element that could come in and do another Larry type expose on something, and things are going to move, and it's going to be interesting to see where everything lands.
Was that not one of the surprisingly depressing scenes? Is that there's just no one there? She's just trying to go to jail, and there's no one there, and that almost was more upsetting to her than actually going to jail.
I think that was the way
hard.
she reacted.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming, because she's a, celebrity in this universe, that she's used to having everybody there when she needs them there and getting things done. And
I think the actress's name is Blair Brown. She was
Yeah.
Nina Sharp on Fringe.
Yeah.
Just call her Nina Sharp.
All right, Nina Sharp. Along with Captain Janeway. It's a whole sci-fi blend. I wonder if she's going to be a series regular next season.
I think so. I think that was the plan. They were kind of sprinkling her in a little bit, and then she's going to be one of the main focuses next season as one of the new characters to come to the prison.
Well, and I think even more than Piper, then she's brought low to this experience. I mean, Piper had to adjust to suddenly you're just one of the prisoners, and to go from celebrity where your every whim is catered to suddenly there's nobody even there to check you into the prison. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And how does she handle that? And does she call attention to the problem? Does she say that this is not okay to treat anyone this way? Or is it more about her as a character?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because Piper came in very much as a privileged white female, and she took, she turned right, and she went into this decline and really acclimated to this stereotypical lifestyle, where now we have Ms. Fake Martha Stewart coming in, and she's also an even more privileged white female. And is she going to turn left and try to rise above it and try to turn things around?
Right, she's certainly a potential foil for
It's going to be
Piper.
interesting to see who she becomes friends with.
Oh, Red. Her and Red are going to butt heads at some point, because isn't this new woman, isn't she a chef too? Very much, the lifestyle, so they're going to be butting heads
she's
over
a
the
homemaker.
Yeah. The
That's why we
celebrity.
keep calling her Martha.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're probably going to butt heads a little bit as far as kitchen, and she'll probably be leading a
It's
crafts
going to be
group.
interesting, what her stance on the prison is going to be. She could, bring so much awareness that these women aren't treated right, or da-da-da-da-da, or she can, like you said, totally make it about herself. But I think it'll be interesting to see, and where I think the whole good guys versus bad guys that we're going to possibly see in season 4 is it's going to be interesting who becomes her core group. She's obviously going to get a core group. Are they actually going to be her friends, or are they going to cater to her? That's what I'm interested to see.
Well, we know who her biggest fan was, right?
Pusey.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the most welcoming group. Right?
Yeah.
That's very true.
Right now.
But will that group splinter if Pusey...
If Pusey starts to follow Ms. Martha.
And if we go on your own takeaway that she's in a relationship with a non-African American member of this group.
So and another member of that group is now Jewish.
There's that
They're becoming very diverse.
diversity within the
black,
diversity.
the Asian, the Jew. They're just missing a white girl.
Diversity inception.
Hey, they found one.
There you go.
That's
Martha.
That's true.
I love that we're calling her Martha.
I know.
I don't remember her
I
character
can't
name.
think. I don't.
But everybody knows who we're talking about. So.
Right. Absolutely.
But I, to some extent, to go back a little, I do see Nick's point, regarding... This was potentially a major screw-up by the corporation to bring in all these new prisoners. It's going to cause chaos. And in addition, the strike still could be occurring. And even if all the guards come back, most of them are part-time and or brand new.
And a lot of the new guards, they never got sufficient training. They're, again, this is old guard versus new guard in the literal sense. The old guard is very much, they're proud of their jobs, they were trained right, they work hard for their money. And all these new guards that we saw coming in lack training. They lack, the capabilities to diffuse dangerous situations between inmates. And if they're the ones that are going to be running the prison while the old guard is still on strike, it's just going to be a huge mess.
I wonder, Nick and a couple of you were talking about Piper and the tattoo scene. Do we really believe that she as a character has gone that dark? And if so, I know we don't like Piper, but what do we think Piper's going to do?
I think that's where they're leading us.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's more of a stretch to go down that path. Like with
It would be a true diverge from the book, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
Though the lake scene did happen in the book.
The lake scene did happen.
Differently.
Okay.
But more of the guards, they were out building some picnic tables and for a park or something, and there was a lake, and the guards go ahead, turned away and was like, do what you need to do. So they all went and play to the lake and stuff. But
So it sounds like they're still taking some elements from the book, just making them more dramatic or more enhanced for the television viewing audience.
Is the corporate takeover in the book?
no.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big
Departure.
Yeah.
No, that book's called Animal Farm.
Animal Farm.
It's a big departure, but I think it's a necessary social commentary that should be addressed in real life.
Right.
So.
Because
And
eventually you run out of book, right? I mean, she leaves. So if we're truly now, part of what makes the show so popular is that it's telling women's stories, but it's also letting us see the world of prisons, then that's a major thing to consider. Because we have a prison problem in our country. So it's how do we solve that?
That's all my hometown is prison.
There was
8 of them.
there was actually some internet chatter. I think I jumped on a comment forum where somehow female prisoners jumped in on the comments and got a little up in arms because they're actually really unhappy with the lack of realism. They think that the show, of course, is dramatically blown up, and then there were a lot of people, myself included actually, I came to the defense of the show because it's like, well, we can't exactly put cameras in actual prisons, so what's the next best thing?
Yeah.
Telling a story like this, and yes, there might be a whole bunch of dramatic devices that happen that you probably don't see regularly.
But that's like anything. I mean, I'm a teacher, and any show about teaching that's ever been made is so stupid because it's so ridiculous.
It's a huge departure from the norm.
Right, and I think anyone who's vaguely intelligent, which I think most of the audience of Orange is the New Black is, understands that it's dramatized, but it also makes us then question, well, what is the reality?
Right.
Like, in that way, it does a service.
I mean, we assume
Exactly.
that it's not. If this was real prison, that would be.
Right.
I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but like that would be just a little bit
Right. Just
absurd. Like,
just-
there's no way that people actually.
It would be Oz. Wasn't that show a little more? Well, it was a
Well, that one,
male high security.
it was male, it was Max, but it was also, the story was told differently. It was meant to be halfway surreal and halfway real. So there was a lot of really graphic violence and sexual acts and things like that being depicted. There was the race separation that invariably happens, but it also talked a lot about issues facing prisons. It just did it from the vantage point of this is a male max security versus a female minimum security. But it also had a surreal component in its narrator, who was Harold Perrineau Jr. I don't remember his character name right now, where he would kind of be in a glass box, and his character was in a wheelchair, and he would be in the glass box talking about, basically giving us the bullet points of what that episode was about and what the glimpses telling you what you should be watching for, essentially. Orange doesn't do that. It tells it instead through the flashbacks of the characters. We didn't get flashbacks in Oz.
So I hate to back up, but
I guess that was Eddie's back pedal noise.
sorry, right? Is I think what really made me go, holy crap, there's about to be a bunch of people, is when they did the food order. And when the food order wound up coming in double, and then what they actually ordered, like the rations that they ordered, when Red was like... So I think that, going back to Lake Scene, I think when Red was like sitting on the dock and whatever and all of that, that's when she knows it's about to get intense up in there. So I think Red's going to become even more of a leader in season 4.
At least leader for the
For
old guard.
existing-
So that's why I think it's about to, it's
Have
going to
that split.
separate, and I think Red's going to become one of the major, these are my girls, don't touch them.
So it won't be restricted just to her family. It'll be everybody.
They will all become her family.
Yeah.
Right. I think these separation groups that we've seen, the only way they're going to survive is they're all going to have to come together.
Come together.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything about any new actors or characters being introduced in season 4?
I followed them on Instagram. There was a picture of Alex, but it was only... It made it sound like she was only there for a couple days.
Okay.
That could easily be flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't seen if Bennett's coming back. So I don't know about that. But with How to Get Away with Murder, he's on that quite heavily, so...
Right.
But their shooting schedules are different.
And I haven't seen any other people either, so... I mean, they could be marketing this very specifically, and they probably are, or we don't see all these new people yet.
Yeah, they probably want to keep everything under wraps for now because Netflix has other shows that they're trying to promote and get those up and running.
I mean, they just came out with a whole Latino show. Like,
They sure did.
like all in Spanish.
Yep.
They're
So
all
I'm sure,
good looking. Just saying.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, especially now with modern technology and things getting out there super fast, a lot of casting bulletins that'll go out to agents and managers and all that. They'll be disguised. It won't say it's for Orange the New Black. They'll say they're looking for it could be a dummy show. And
If
then
you know
the
Orange is the New
characters'
Black,
names could be changed
they like to
and-
cast as a cattle call, which is very interesting. Which is exactly what you're saying. Is when they need new people, you don't know that they're from Orange is the New Black.
because they want to keep things for the audience a surprise. They want to keep everything as tightly sealed as possible.
As a flip, though, it could be possible that we only see things from the old guard's perspective. That we don't, the other people are there, but we only know their reaction to it. We don't know the other side.
Yeah, do we get new characters and new flashbacks, or are these all just people that are there causing trouble, but then we see the old
Are they
guard
almost like
die?
human props that are coming in?
I wouldn't be surprised, because there's already so many characters. It's almost like, I don't know, if they introduce too many more people that we have to care about, no one's going to remember who anyone is.
I don't remember who they are anyway.
I can't.
Until they're in front of me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's who
can't.
you are.
Well, we potentially lost 3. We don't know if
We don't know
Nikki's
for
ever
sure.
coming back. We don't know if Alex is going to be in the prison anymore. The one of
Stella.
Ruby Red,
Stella, she's gone.
Stella,
She's
she's
in
gone.
Max too.
Yeah.
So, we've lost some. And we lost some from season 1, too. Miss Claudette and Rosa. So we've been losing people.
Yeah.
Have we talked about the wedding yet?
No.
No.
Morella's wedding.
Morello.
We have not.
She got married.
She got married.
She got married. There we go. We talked about it.
But she was
That whole thing, that was a bit of a highlight for me.
I felt so bad for her. She lost her
Everything.
drive. It was gone.
She was wasn't even wearing makeup, which for her is a huge deal.
Huge.
Yeah.
I was both this is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Also, it's kind of adorable. When he went and beat up Christopher, I was like,
If that didn't make you chuckle,
oh, it was.
I mean,
was
I do have an
hilarious.
ex, so I kind of laughed at it.
But
so.
Christopher's the object of her crazy obsession, right?
Right.
He's not even her ex. They never had anything. So all he did was no, crazy lady, I don't want to be with you.
Right.
And then some guy comes and beats him up. This poor man has been living in fear because this cuckoo
Stalker.
chick has
What
just
you do
been.
for love. I mean,
That's not love. That's just insanity, is what that is.
But I mean, also,
I mean,
what type of man really marries a girl in prison that he's only met over the table?
Have you never read any of these true stories? Because this
People do that.
it doesn't.
this is realistic.
No, I know
maybe
it
not to this-
happens. I know it happens.
Yeah, maybe not.
See,
to this
at first
fictional
when she
degree,
started her
but
whole
the
prison,
pen
pal
thing.
thing, I thought she was digging for money.
She was.
I thought that's all it was gonna. I didn't
Well, no,
didn't-
that's the ploy or whatever.
I didn't think we'd end with her having her non-fantasy better than fantasy wedding.
That was so funny.
and then
What's so funny?
the whole thing,
the wedding
is just
and the
funny.
after the wedding part, where the guards were there.
Well, they don't have conjugal visits.
the wedding
so-
part.
It was immediately. You can't call it the night because it was definitely not night.
Well,
And I
no,
love-
he was on a time limit.
Yeah.
Gotta get it done,
Well, and they're apparently very madly in love with each other, and they are not even able to touch, maybe have a hug at the end when he's leaving. But it's been a very chaste relationship until they get to the "I do, you may now kiss the bride."
What do you
and
guys
then-
think about? I'm
Stereotype.
asking questions. I'm sorry. What do you guys think about who was at the wedding?
I don't remember who's at the wedding.
I don't know.
Red
Right.
and Healy, right?
Yeah, Red
I thought it
and
was
Healy.
really.
Hold hands?
They had the little
They had the
visual exchange that was very
It
sweet.
was like in
oh,
101
these kids.
Dalmatians when the humans are getting married. And the dogs-
Right.
Yeah.
They had And
You can tell we have a dad on the panel.
That is the best
Don't make
comparison ever. Healy and Red got married through their eyes, like Pongo.
Do I think they got
Vegeta.
married? No. Do I think that they solidified their relationship a little more? Yes.
It was also like, oh, these kids, like,
Yeah,
this
that's
is going
how
to be
I
a big
took it.
mistake for them. But look how cute they are.
It's weird that it's them two because they have some non-traditional marriages, especially Healy. I mean,
Literal
he
mail
didn't
order
do
bride.
something that much different than Morella did.
Right?
But Morello got to know her husband before they got married. Healy ordered this woman off of the internet.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, Red is understandable because Morello is part of Red's family.
Yeah.
Right.
And Healy, I guess, the counselor had to be there.
Yeah, but Morello and Healy had a good relationship because she was his counselee. So I feel like they had a pre-existing relationship. But he's kind of a dad figure for some of the girls in prison, just like Red's a mother figure.
I suppose. I guess
Yeah.
he has some less dysfunctional relationships
Yeah.
with some of the prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not perfect, but he's the best they have. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Healy's a tough character for me because especially in season 1, there's plenty of reasons to hate him, but you see plenty of reasons not to. In this season, we got
A little bit of both.
even more than you would have.
Yeah, we got a little
with
more of
his mother.
his positive side with things that we talked about earlier with, the dinners with Red, the delivery and
And
everything.
also,
But we
like
saw
we
his
talked about, the
child.
so-so disaster.
Yeah, exactly. And getting the
Yeah.
other counselor fired. I mean, he definitely isn't perfect and never has been. I think the part that I struggle with, maybe articulating what Nick is saying, is that they're trying to set him up for some sympathy. And I don't want to sympathize with the guy. I think he's kind of, he needs some counseling himself, is what I'm thinking.
He needs better schooling. I think his mother was crazy and he wanted to fix it, but he isn't trained to do it.
He doesn't know
like
how to
he
do it
really
the right
wants
way.
to help. He just does not have the tools.
Yeah. he
Best
does not.
intentions, but
Well, he's just so old school, right? Like, his training is from an era where there was just a lack of understanding, and we've grown so much in our knowledge of psychology, but then, like, his heart is in the right place, but he's just the old guard. Like, he really is the old guard. Like, he
Old
just
school.
doesn't get it. Like, these people come to him, and he just does not understand. He's just the, tough love and work hard and keep your nose down and that's going to somehow fix your life mode of thinking, and it just doesn't necessarily play well.
Which then, So-So's suicide attempt,
That was interesting.
which was dealt with in a bit of a lighthearted fashion, which I found a little interesting for this show, just because it all ended up okay. And, they had to, keep her up, and, they didn't want anyone to find out so that she didn't get sent to psych. So, but it was kind of almost like this comedy of errors where they're holding her up and
It was a bit
making
of Weekend at Bernie's.
a Weekend at Bernie's, yeah.
Well, and
But
I think part of the reason that they were maybe a little bit more dark comedy about that whole storyline is because they set her up as somewhat of a buffoon from the moment she got to the prison. She's just this hippie protester. She's super annoying. She talks all the time. She has, no problem telling you how she thinks every time, all the time. And so then I think a lot of the other characters were riding on that and not even noticing her fall, her decline, if you will. So a couple of other storylines that I want to hit on, since we want to make sure we round out the whole season now.
certainly.
So the first one is there was this very tense and hostile feud between Gloria and Sophia.
Yeah,
Thoughts about that?
I couldn't get into that. I feel like I fast forward through parts of it.
Aww.
I know. I just couldn't get into that whole storyline at all. It felt like conflict for the sake of conflict at times.
Maybe. I think what they were trying to do here again, to bring back to some of these more social commentary points, was bring into clear focus, maybe almost to a pedantic level, just how much trans people are subject to this kind of violence.
Yeah.
Only in this case, it was in a
Right.
prison, it was microcosmic.
That part I understood in a lot more than I think the build up to it of with their conflict with one of their sons encouraged the other one to do something stupid. I don't remember what the details were, but it felt a little drawn out at first. So I think that's kind of where they lost me, but obviously towards the end.
Yeah, they probably meditated on the whole son conflict a little too long.
Yeah.
When really the point was the prejudice part.
Right, which made more sense.
Well, I think, it's interesting to set up the parallel of both of them trying to parent from behind bars, and so, but it didn't need to go on as long as it did. But establishing that, like, they have so little control. I mean, parents already have very little control. Sorry, parents, you really do. Have very little control over what kids do by a certain age. And then the fact that you're not even there most of the time gives you even less control. You know, even like orchestrating rides to get to see you is almost impossible. So I think that was an interesting thing that, you know, it could have easily brought them together. And then it ends up tearing them apart and turning into this terrible thing.
And then what about Crazy Eyes? I think the comic relief of the season was her prison fan fiction. Any thoughts about that? And about her admirer who she ended up with in the end?
We didn't see much of her.
She was writing all the time.
She was writing all the time.
This crazy... I just got crazy.
It was
I don't have another word for it.
It was like alien porn, right?
It was alien porn.
Yep.
Love that.
Like, she was writing alien porn.
She wrote Litchfield's #1 bestseller.
Wow.
That's true.
It was certainly. I mean, everyone was coming and like asking for when's the next chapter coming, when's the next chapter coming, and her just like, oh my god, you guys, kind of reaction. I really appreciated.
She underestimated the power of literacy, you know? Like, she just really...
Spoken like a true English teacher.
You know, once you find that one book, it's over. You just know the world can bring to you, so... always teaching. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
It was a nice twist for her. It was, I mean, she's already a very eccentric character. What else can they do to keep her interesting and to keep her character moving forward? And I thought this was kind of a fun little...
I thought it was nice that it was
for her to
subtle.
go.
It wasn't something like that her character would normally do.
And like, but her quirky weirdness is like being celebrated all of a sudden. Like, people are appreciating
and it
what
also,
a weirdo she
and
is.
what I liked about it is it showed that she's very intelligent.
Yeah.
Like, she's a very...
She's multifaceted.
Very intelligent woman. Although she may be crazy, she's very intelligent.
Yeah. I mean, it won her the Emmy, this storyline and this role.
She won again.
She won again.
That's
you know,
crazy.
she's...
Exactly.
But she's very
Crazy.
talented.
She's so
like,
talented that they know that they can write these kinds of storylines, and she'll bring this very honest energy and this great ability to bring them off as believable, even though her character literally is crazy.
And I didn't need it to be like an arc. I don't know if we have any MASH friends, but it's basically a MASH episode. They're really, really bored. They get a book finally. It's a murder mystery, not an erotic alien porn. And they just have to share it and tear pages out, and everyone's yelling at everyone else getting, when's the next? Are you done reading this? It was the same. It was just, it felt like an old storyline to me that just had its weird, funny moments. That could have just been one episode, and I would have been done with it. But
I liked that it went for multiple, though. It showed how addictive her writing was for everybody and the benefits that different ladies got out of it.
and truthfully, how little they have to do.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, that's like, that's good to know. I mean, you know, like, 'cause it looks like they're constantly busy, but really, they have a ton of downtime, and their lives are kind of boring.
Yeah. They are supposed to be being punished for stuff.
No, I know. I mean, I realize that, but like, they're not getting anything out of most of their day.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we as a viewer don't always see and, you know, / understand.
I think the prisoner that gets the most out of their day is Yoga Jones.
Yes.
Nick likes Yoga Jones.
I love Yoga Jones.
But we didn't see her very much this season at all.
No, but she's never really been a main character.
Yeah.
No, she hasn't.
She's
kind of been there.
she's the frosting on top of the cupcake.
We've never had a flashback for her. She just kind of casually told her heartbreaking
Yeah.
story once, and that was
Wasn't that during the drama scene? When did she tell her story?
Oh,
it.
season
I
1.
Think, yeah, it was season 1.
Yeah.
She just told Piper.
Yeah.
Someone accused her of something, and
She shot a child.
Yeah.
no, right? No, I know that.
Oh.
Someone had accused her of
Being in there for a different reason.
being there for a
I
different
think
reason.
being a pet, like something horrible with children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was.
And she just wanted to clear the air, but yeah, I would like to see more of Yoga Jones, especially since she's kind of the peacekeeper. She's very much she's a yogi, obviously, so it's very
So if the writers are
meditative.
listening, let her
More
be the
Yoga
one who
Jones
combines the
and
the
bring
new
back the-
inmates.
Are there any other inmates that you'd like to see more of or haven't seen enough of?
Nikki.
Wow.
Wow.
I know.
Will
for
she come
obvious
back from
reasons.
Max?
Will she come? But at least they've left the door open for her to return.
True.
I could see less of Caputo. Well, less of
Parts of
Caputo.
Caputo.
parts of.
I
He
mean,
really got his storyline though. I don't
Yeah.
know
He
what more
did.
they could do with him. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
my question is, why did they even go there with him and Fig? Like, that just
I don't know.
came out of nowhere.
And it didn't
to me.
really
I
go
think they wanted to
super
bring
far.
Fig back.
Or is it just more to show how far Fig has fallen?
Or how far he has fallen.
I think both.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows both.
Yeah, because he had that one little moment of rising to the top, and then all of a sudden he's right back to where he was. He's not really the warden. Danny is more of the warden.
Mike
But he
Birbiglia.
left.
But he, early on.
And we do know that Fig is not getting much in her marriage since her husband's gay.
Yeah.
So no other. You feel like the inmates have been sufficiently covered?
If
We
they
know
annou-
a lot about everybody.
if they announced that season 4 was their final season,
I would not be shocked.
I'd be content with that. Because really, right now, I'm almost like I don't want to learn a bunch of new characters that they're bringing in. Like I kind of want the storyline to just be done.
Do you feel that way because of the story or because of the possibility that there might be so many new characters? Are you feeling
It's going to become a
fatigue?
completely different. It'd be a different show.
But not necessarily.
Well, it could become.
Again, you can't.
This is a good question for the whole group, actually. It's a good segue to...
For a show I like as much as I do, and I like a lot of TV shows a lot, it's really weird that I struggle to remember their names, like the character names. When I could usually tell you their actor names, other things they've been in. I just can't wrap my little brain around it. So if it wrapped up in one more season, I'd be really content and happy with it.
I don't see it wrapping up in one more season because this is Netflix's biggest cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
It's their most critically acclaimed series. They're going to run it till they can't run it anymore.
Yeah, it's winning.
Will they? Aren't they
Yeah.
higher quality? Aren't you thinking of how networks are?
Yeah, but I'd rather see this show go out on top like Downton Abbey is doing instead of stretching on. Yes, I don't want it to go into disrepair like a lot of other network shows have done just to get more money out of them. But
I don't want it to
I
pull a
don't.
True
I
Blood.
think season 4
Yeah,
is
True
too
Blood's
soon
good.
for an ending. I feel like if they were going to wrap it up,
Season 5.
maybe season 6, depending on where they go.
As we
in season
discussed
4.
last time, by math-wise, Piper has about 2 seasons left on her original sentence.
Correct.
So, if it wrapped up when Piper left, that is a very natural ending place. So I kind of hope they do that. Just because then it makes the whole thing as a kind of a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's a plan.
It's really interesting to see if they're going to wrap it up, because I agree with Nick that it's just, right now, it is so overwhelming of a show that I think where they've built it up, that they can only go down.
Overwhelming because of character, story, or both?
Both.
Okay.
I think where they're at now, they can only go down, they can give us a nice ending and wrap it up. They can't fall down and come back up.
I mean, I think the whole V storyline for me was the top of the mountain.
Right.
I mean, that whole season was just excellent.
You did say last time that you felt less connected to this season.
Yeah, and I mean, from a person who loves exposition, this was just a little too boring for me. It just didn't feel as as connected, fluid. It just didn't feel like it had a.
I don't think we had as much time to connect with the characters in this season. I feel like
it did give us a lot of flashbacks, like more flashbacks. They did flashback montages over some episodes.
I actually loved the flashback montage.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it was like on Mother's Day. It was cute to see how everybody spent their Mother's Day. Like, I liked that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Kristen and Amanda, how do you feel?
I don't know. I really missed Nikki this season. I kind of feel like she brings a lot of heart to the show. She's kind of crazy, but she's relatable, and, you know, I just feel like having her go off to Max, while I could see it being necessary for her character in that particular situation, I really want them to bring her back. I feel like it was just missing something. And, yeah, they brought in Stella as kind of a funky replacement, but there's no comparison between the two.
Are you saying you can really notice if one character is missing? Like,
yeah, I miss
it
Nikki.
wasn't until the
You would notice if Red was missing.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree. I'm sorry.
You know,
but that's different.
You feel about Red the same way I feel about Nikki.
Red's my favorite.
But Miss Claudette was my second favorite character in season 1, and there's just so much going on that I forget she even exists.
But the reason that Miss Claudette is no longer there is because the actress herself had a big health problem, and she wasn't able to be there for filming for season 2.
I know. I'm just saying I don't miss her.
I do. I miss Miss Claudette too. I would love her to come back. I don't know if it's going to be physically possible for this actress to do so, but
you, I mean, I think you kind of hinted at it earlier. You think the show is going to go on longer than 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Do you want it to?
it depends on where this next season goes. I'm being cautiously optimistic. There's a lot of roads that they can take. We don't know where they're going. It's way too early to get a season synopsis or a general little tidbit of what their plans are. But, I mean, as long as they don't bring in a huge influx of new characters and they keep focused on the core group that we know and love from everything so far, then I think they'll be okay. But if they use this opportunity to bring in all these new people, it's going to be way too much to keep track of. I'd rather see these new people be human props or just a little bit of a guest star. And I don't want them to become the main focus. I want to see how our girls react to this new situation.
Yeah, I guess I'm along that same lines. I haven't completely processed what I think. You know, I can think of a lot of shows that left me wanting more, and I always appreciate that, and some that have obviously jumped the shark. I think it would be really sad to see that happen to this show, because I have appreciated the level of storytelling, and so I'd like to be optimistic, but I'm also a bit afraid that if we do bring in a rush of new characters, that it will be too much. I can see them focusing in on the Martha character because she's already been introduced, and maybe one or two players from the rest of the new influx. But if we get much more than that, I just feel like then it will be, where does it end? And I don't know if that's what they want us to feel, because, I mean, that's how prison really is. It's a constant. It never goes away. But at the same time, for our storytelling, I think it would be much better if the max it goes is Piper. She was our inlet into the story and the world, and when she goes, I think we need to go. And I don't think there should be a draw out. I don't think she should do anything else that makes her stay longer. I think it needs to be the time that it is.
The book and like literally she leaves and she doesn't know anything.
She knows nothing. She walks out. She hugs Larry and like they get married. She doesn't even know
like how these girls are like actually doing.
And I feel like when the show ends, I don't feel like the writers will leave us with that where we just don't know. I feel like they'll give us some hint of, okay, well, this one is still in prison. This one got out and now she's doing this, whether it's good or bad. I feel like they have to wrap up storylines.
With all the flashbacks, I feel like they'll do flash forwards.
They could.
Or some
Lost has created a whole new parlance.
Well, not a la Lost.
That's how they. That's how they.
Epilogue.
That's how they ended my Desperate Housewives, and they flash forward how I didn't want them to flash forward.
Flash forward more like Harry Potter.
More epilogue.
Yeah, in that like maybe in like the last episode we get a flash forward of everybody.
I always find that so unsatisfying.
I agree.
Like I just want to be, even in Harry Potter, I was like, seriously, we didn't need that. Like I would have been really
happy
let the
story
to know that,
end, and then it was done.
Yes, let the story end. Let my imagination do what it wants. Let the internet take over and do its crazy alchemy. And then, that's fine. We'll have crazy things on Tumblr or whatever. But
crazy
for
theories.
me,
That's fine.
I like having that almost security blanket. I want to know where these people that I've invested in, I want to know where they end up, whether it's good or bad. I need that closure.
That's two sides of the literary coin, isn't it?
It is.
There's some people want closure and some people want...
But it depends on the character, too, I think. If for the main characters, I'm going to want to know where Red ends up. I'm going to want to know where Nikki's storyline ends. Some of the other girls, not so much.
But doesn't that sound like instead of doing season upon season until the show is run down to the ground, you get a special every once in a while? Like an hour-long special where we find out about different characters?
Or maybe, they can start releasing some of these people. I mean, how long are these girls' sentences? Because in real life, some of these girls would leave before Piper would be done. I feel like some of them should be let out before she's released.
I feel like Mad Men did it really well, where they they fast-forwarded us like a couple months, just to see how all of the plot points kind of shook out, like what we were currently talking about. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like, this ends up okay for these people. It was a nice thing to see. It just kind of tied up a few tiny loose ends. It wasn't everything, but it allowed you to kind of have a sense.
I'm the type of person that whatever ending comes out of it, it serves the story it was telling.
Right, yeah.
So I don't necessarily need closure as long as there is sort of a powerful trajectory that it's sending me on. Mm-hmm. Almost like the end of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the epilogue, and I get why she did it. I don't have any strong feeling about it. There are some shows, Eddie Ray's True Blood, we did have an earlier podcast episode about True Blood where they let that go on way too long.
Way too long.
And the ending was too unsatisfying and too disappointing and did not service any of the characters from the point they started that show. As long as these characters, even Piper, no matter how different Piper is from Piper Kerman, as long as there is some place where they're taking these stories that makes sense to me. Because I don't anticipate that many of these girls are going to have happy endings. They're in prison. And closure could mean their deaths, and I don't even necessarily want to see that either. I'd like just to see something that makes sense and is ultimately servicing what they're already doing, which is partially to tell very enriching tales with very strong, fleshed out characters, as well as the social commentary part about the prison system, both on a state level and on a federal level. I think those are two very big chunks, two big pieces of story that they've taken on that I hope they can bring to at least some kind of satisfying resolve by the end of it. Now, whether that happens at the end of one season or 2 to 3 more, I don't know. And I don't know if that's a prediction we can make, although I'm inclined to agree with Kristen that if the show is making the network enough money, like drawing in new subscribers or advertisers or critical acclaim, because it's won a ton of Emmys, they're probably going to, I predict at least 2 more seasons, hands down.
Yeah, I was thinking 6 would be a good round number to close it out.
Well, and that puts it at Krista's point about her original release time. Yeah. So that would make sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you want to cover that we have not already covered? Anything else you want to cover about the 3rd season that we haven't talked about?
I'm good.
All right. You're going to keep watching?
I'm going to keep watching.
Nick?
At least I nodded, sorry.
This is a podcast?
They can't see us.
At least 1 or 2 more seasons.
Wow,
Okay.
there's a time limit.
He's committing. He's only committing
There's
so
much
far.
TV to watch.
There is.
It is,
Well,
so.
and that's very true too. I mean, I
X-Files
think,
is coming back, so.
and the X-Files is coming
And Gilmore
back.
Girls.
I know, I was just thinking the same thing.
I know.
There are many possibilities, friends, but are you going to continue watching Orange is the New Black? Kristen.
Yes.
Krista.
Yes, but I will. After season 4, we'll see how it goes.
All right. Conditional. Amanda.
Yes, until I get tired of it, so it's conditional. If I think it's gone overboard, then it will be off my TV.
Oh, okay. Well, I am also going to keep watching it, and I think with saying all of that, we have wrapped up our discussion of Season 3 of Orange is the New Black. And since everybody at least plans to watch Season 4, you can better bet that we will return to podcasting about Orange is the New Black after the release of Season 4, which will likely occur in June 2016. Saying that, I'd like to thank Eddie, Nick, Kristen, Krista, and Amanda for joining us once again to talk about Orange is the New Black. As always, keep checking out the blog at Couch Potatoes Unite. Oh, thanks, Jack, by the way. Thank you for... He's very excited. Thanks for checking. Keep checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com. Find us on YouTube. Find us on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. I may even get feisty and get an Instagram. Who knows? But find us, listen to us, tell your friends, and keep listening, keep watching. Until the next time, bye-bye.